It'll be in Boise, Idaho. It's Akron and Utah State. They will meet, and that will be at um, 12:30 p.m. Pacific time. And the other bowl game that takes place on the 21st will be on at 11:30 a.m. Pacific time. And then following the Potato Bowl, the famous Idaho Potato Bowl between Akron and Utah State at 4 p.m. Pacific, we have the Marymount Boca Raton Bowl from Boca Raton, Florida. It's Toledo and Temple. That's right, Temple, who I think came this close to winning the conference. Temple will face Toledo in the Boca Raton Bowl on the 22nd to wrap up that 2-day schedule of bowl games. And then the 23rd, the following day on December 23rd, we have the Paseta Bowl, which takes place at exactly 1:30 p.m. Pacific. I'll provide a link to this year's. Check it out. Check out the bowl schedules, because I may have gotten some of the times wrong. Like I think the Rackin' Bowl I know is at 4 o'clock. The Idaho Bowl is at 12:30. So yeah. But anyway, getting back to this, the Paseta Bowl is at 1:30 Pacific time. And that is going to be Boise State and Northern Illinois. And again, that is at 1:30 Pacific time. That is the Paseta Bowl, Boise State and Northern Illinois. These are two teams I think faced off against each other in a major bowl game years ago, and now here they are in a not so major bowl game. Then following that, you will have the GoDaddy Bowl, and again, you have another FCS school that has jumped to FBS, and in the first or second year has made quite the impact. It'll be Georgia Southern and Bowling Green, and that'll be 5 p.m. Pacific time. And then on Christmas Eve, we have the Popeye Bahamas Bowl, all from Nassau, Bahamas, from Robinson National Stadium. It'll be Middle Tennessee State 8 against Western Michigan. That'll be at 9 a.m. Pacific. And then following that, at 5 p.m. Pacific, is the Hawaii Bowl. It'll be San Diego State and Cincinnati. And then, on the 26th, the day after Christmas, we got a whole lineup of bowl games. Of course, that being a Saturday, so what do you expect? We have the St. Petersburg Bowl, which will be about let's see, 11, 10, 9, 8 o'clock in the morning. Wow. The St. Petersburg Bowl, it'll be Connecticut and Marshall. Following that on CBS will be the Sun Bowl, the Hyundai Sun Bowl. Good matchup here, Miami, Washington State. And that will be at about 11 a.m. Pacific on CBS. And then we have the Heart of Dallas Bowl, and that'll be at about, looking here, 2:20, be at about 11:20 a.m. Pacific. The Heart of Dallas Bowl will be Washington and Southern Miss. And then on ABC at about 12:30 p.m. Pacific is the New Era Pinstripe Bowl. It'll be Duke in Indiana. Indiana back in a bowl game for, I think, the first time in a few years. That's pretty cool. Against Duke, who's been going to consecutive bowl games lately, so that's pretty cool too. And then following that, at about 2:45 p.m. Pacific, it'll be the Independence Bowl. It'll be Tulsa and Virginia Tech. And then to round it out, at about 6:15 p.m. Pacific time, It'll be the Foster Farms Bowl. It'll be UCLA and Nebraska. And then on the 28th, which is a Monday, we will have the Military Bowl. It'll be Pittsburgh against Navy. That will kick off at about, I believe, let me see, 2:30, 1:30, 12:30, 11:30 a.m. Pacific. And again, just like I mentioned with New Mexico earlier, I believe, and let me check the time here. Yeah. As I mentioned with New Mexico earlier in the other video, I believe, the other part, because this is in two parts, you probably have noticed that. This is basically a home game for Navy. Basically Navy, if they didn't lose for a second time this year, probably would have been in a bigger bowl. But because of that, they've taken their decent record, I think, of 9-2. What is it? 11-2 or 9-2 or something? Well, it's going to be something more. Either going to have another win or loss after this Saturday, but they're going to face Pittsburgh at home. So basically, the Military Bowl is a home game for Navy because it's on the home field, and that'll be at about 11:30 a.m. Pacific time on ESPN. And then on ESPN2 at about 2 p.m. Pacific, it'll be the Quick Lane Bowl. Central Michigan and Minnesota. You can obviously tell Central Michigan is going to have the home field advantage because it's in Detroit. And where's Detroit at? In Michigan. And then the next day on the 29th, we have the Lockheed Martin we basically have the Armed Forces Bowl. We have California, Cal, against Air Force. And that'll be in Fort Worth. I believe that too might be a home game for them. Well, actually it won't be a home game, but basically it's an Armed Forces Bowl. It'll be in Fort Worth, Texas. It'll be at 11 a.m. Pacific time on ESPN. And then we have the Russell Athletic Bowl to follow that at about 2:30 p.m. Pacific. It's North Carolina and Baylor. North Carolina, obviously was this probably close to getting to a New Year's Day game. Didn't happen, so what are you going to do? And then following that on Campus Insiders? I've never heard of that. Well, it's a streaming service, so I think I get that with my TV. Campus Insiders, they will host the Arizona Bowl. And that's going to be Nevada and Colorado State. That'll be at 4:30 p.m. Pacific, and that's on Campus Insiders. I have to look that up. And then to round out this day, at 6 p.m. Pacific time, it'll be the Texas Bowl, LSU, and Texas Tech. And that rounds out the December 29th day of bowls. And then December 30th, we have at 9 a.m. Pacific, we have the Birmingham Bowl. We have Auburn versus Memphis on ESPN. We have, following that, at about 12:30 p.m. Pacific, the Belk Bowl between North Carolina State and Mississippi State, also on ESPN. And following that, at 4 p.m. Pacific, we have the Music City Bowl, Texas A&M in Louisville. And that's at 4 p.m. Pacific. And then at 7:30 p.m. Pacific, we have the Holiday Bowl. We have a good one. It's USC and Wisconsin. USC will obviously have the home field advantage, even though it's in San Diego. And then on Christmas Eve, this is where the stuff really gets started. We have the first of the New Year's 6 bowls. We have the Chick-fil-A Bowl, or the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. It'll be Houston and Florida State. And that'll be at 9 a.m. Pacific time. And that's the first of the New Year's Day games. And that's on New Year's 6 games, I should say. And that's on New Year's Eve. And following that, at 1 p.m. Pacific, we have the Orange Bowl – between Oklahoma and Clemson. That's the first playoff game. And the winner of that will face the winner of the game that follows it, which is at 5 p.m. Pacific. And that will be in the Cotton Bowl, also on ESPN, Michigan State and Alabama. So, there you go. And the winners of both those matchups will face each other on January 11th in Phoenix. And then on New Year's Day itself, we have the Outback Bowl. We have the Outback Bowl to kick off the new year at 9 a.m. Pacific on ESPN2. It'll be Northwestern and Tennessee. Then at 10 a.m. Pacific on ABC, we will have the Citrus Bowl between Michigan and Florida. It ought to be a good one. And then around the same time, we will have the Fiesta Bowl. That's right, the Fiesta Bowl will actually be broadcast in the morning on ESPN. It'll be Notre Dame and Ohio State. And then, following that, we have the Rose Bowl, which will be at 2 p.m. Pacific. That'll be Stanford and Iowa. And then following that, at 5:30 p.m. Pacific, we have the Sugar Bowl, Oklahoma State and Ole Miss. And then, on January 2nd, on your part of your New Year's weekend, January 2nd, we have the Tax Slayer Bowl, which will be at 9 a.m. Pacific. We have the Tax Slayer Bowl between Penn State and Georgia. And then following that, at about 12:20 p.m. Pacific, we have the Liberty Bowl. We have Kansas State and Arkansas. Kansas State just getting into Kansas State, which I'm a fan of because I was in Kansas for 13 years. What do you expect? Kansas State just getting in there with a win this past week. So Kansas State is in the Liberty Bowl. They will face Arkansas, and that'll be at 12:20 p.m. Pacific. And then we have the Alamo Bowl. We have Oregon and TCU. That'll be at 3:45 p.m. Pacific. And then to round out the final day of regular bowl games on January 2nd will be the Motel 6 Cactus Bowl between West Virginia and Arizona, and that'll be at Chase Field in Phoenix. And that'll be at 7:15 p.m. on ESPN. And then to round it all out will be the National Championship at 5:30 p.m. on ESPN on January 11th. So yeah, a lot of schools becoming bowl eligible in either the first or second year of eligibility. I mean, if you would have told me last year or the year before that Appalachian State, Georgia Southern, and Georgia State would be bowl eligible, I wouldn't have believed you. I mean, if you would have told anybody that Georgia State, who just started the football program, a couple of years ago, if you would have told someone back then, a couple years ago, that they'd be bowl eligible in the first or second year as an FBS school, or as an FBS school, basically 2 years or so when we moved from debuting as an FCS school, no one would have believed you. So it's really it's kind of, in a sense, a very historical. May not seem like it, but almost a historical kind of bowl season, college bowl season, because now you got teams in there that not that long ago were FCS schools, and you thought would have remained that way, and yet here they are within the first or second year in the FBS, and now they're bowl eligible. They're in bowl games, so it's pretty cool. And then, like I said in the first part, I do like the idea of the fact that you got the SWAC conference and the MEAC, not the MAC, but the MEAC conference, allowing their champions to meet in a bowl game as well, and allowing those schools to display what they can do on a national scale like ABC. So that's pretty cool, and I give thumbs up to that. So, really interesting. Really interesting. It's basically, it's a really interesting time if you're a College Bowl fan. Very historic in a sense, because like I said, there are several schools here that, if you would have told me they would have been bowl eligible or be in a bowl game this year, if you would have told me that last year or the first year they came in, if you would have told me this last year, I wouldn't have believed you. If you would have told me this at the beginning of the year, not knowing that certain schools like them, along with Old Dominion and several others, are now in the FBS, would have been in this position, I wouldn't have believed you. But, here they are. And let's just see what they can do. Maybe they make more history by winning the first bowl championships in the first to second year of eligibility, of first to second year of FBS, being in the FBS level, and we'll just see what happens. So let me know what you guys think down below. Again, I still stick with the fact, honestly, like I said in the first video, in part 1, that I believe they should, the Final Four concept of, taking the top 4 teams for a college football playoff, I like it, but I think it'd be better if you just seeded them to a point that the lower seeds went and competed, went with the visitors, and they compete. Well, basically, I think they should, I just feel they should change it up basically, take the bowls out of the equations, and just let the 4 top teams that they choose face each other the following week or so. In in the top seeds home. In other words, like I said, have Oklahoma go to face Clemson in Clemson, have Michigan State go and face Alabama at Alabama, and then let the winners of that go on to face each other in the national championship, and then leave the Cotton Orange Bowl open for other people. Make it a New Year's 8, if you will, and then allow the losers of the game, of those semifinal games, to have a constellation of facing each other in one of those 2 games, in one of those 2 bowl games. I think it makes more sense. It opens the door for 2 more teams that should be in this position, that feel they should be in this position, that many people that might want them in that position should feel they should be in that position. It opens that door if you just go with taking the Final 4 teams, having them compete the following week at the home field, the home stadium of the top seeds, and go from there. So, but that's just my opinion. Maybe they might fix it and do that down the line, but let me know what you guys think down below. Comment if you like. Sorry this was in 2 parts, and I'll talk to y'all later.